Welcome to the Cybersecurity Happy Hour podcast. My name is Christie. I am your host, and welcome into 2022. I wish you a prosperous one and a great one. And the topic for today's podcast, episode 28, is Log4J vulnerability. Just carrying on with the vulnerability that was kind of introduced to the Apache platform at the end of 2021. And I want to explain or discuss this so that our listeners will become a little more enlightened, emerging risk. So let me start really with what exactly is Log4j. So Log4j is a Java utility. So Apache Log4j actually. So it was developed by Apache, and the library is used globally. And what is the purpose of this library? To enable logging and configure applications. Now, with the vulnerability that was identified, it allows for hackers to run any vulnerable code on any machine, which kind of give them a launch pad into any machine so they can hack any application using the Log4j framework. What can Log4j do? What exactly is its purpose? It can record any errors. It can document or record any system operations. And then with these, any sort of errors, it can diagnose those errors and communicate those errors to system admin and also the users as well. So it is a good utility. It is written in Java and it also open source, uses an open source package. So basically anyone who has programming skills can read, identify any bugs. So it's open source. So if you identify bugs, then you can contribute to improving the package. So Log4Shell, anyone can open a shell on any server and also issue commands. So that's the problem really. Someone can open a shell, and when I say someone, could be someone with malicious intent, and can open a shell and issue commands. So the CVE for this vulnerability is CVE 2021-44228. And again, I said what the major concern is, someone can open a remote shell and as an attacker, and they can take control of your machine, your device, if they're running certain versions of Log4j too. Okay, so again, there's a weakness, there's a vulnerability. So if they're running certain versions, then a malicious attacker can take advantage of that weakness. Furthermore, so what else can they do? Attackers can also send text messages, and with these text messages has the ability to control a system or computer remotely. Now, as I said, I've also mentioned the CVE score, CVE, and it has a score of 10 out of 10. Which is one of the highest security scores. Why is that? Because of the impact. It was highly vulnerable, and the fact that a malicious attacker can easily exploit a system. So again, what systems were affected? So the vulnerability affected systems and services that uses Apache Log4j versions from 2.0 up to 2.14.1. So including all the frameworks. So again, so looking at Apache Flink. Also, these type of error message or message that are used for diagnostic by administrators were also discovered in the online game, which is the Minecraft. So Log4j is used by the server to log the activities. So what kind of activities? User activities, the amount of memory that is used, the typical commands that the users has typed into the console. Now, it appears that Minecraft users were aware of these vulnerabilities, but probably didn't take notice of it. Even though we call it 0 day, it's been in the wild, and I think there was some awareness of the vulnerability. Now, the malicious code can also affect Amazon Web Service, Cisco, Oracle, VMware as well. Again, I'm a reminder of what the vulnerabilities, the impact would be. So hackers can take control of millions of servers. They can force shutdown. Imagine force shutdown of servers. Take control and send commands to. This is serious. If they can shut you down, well, they can lock you out, isn't it? They shut down your services. Then obviously there's a denial service. So it's a denial service attack as well. 3 CVE vulnerability that was documented. So it started off with CVE 2021 44228. And what was the vulnerability? It became possible for an attacker to execute codes on random code using the message lookup functionality. And this is actually been patched. Okay, so the patch is fixed by if you have Log4j 2.12.2 and Log4j 2.16.0. So it's fixed by updating utility. And then the second vulnerability was the CVE 2021 45046. And what was the weakness? It was the vulnerability. So this could allow attackers to craft malicious input data that could cause an information leak or a remote code execution. And what is the fix? So again, Log4j 2.12.2 for Java 7 and 2.16.0 for Java 8 and up. And then the latest vulnerabilities was the CVE 2021 45108. And what was the weakness? It left the door open for an attacker to initiate a denial of service attack. So how does this attack happen? By instigating an infinite loop. So a loop is something that repeats over and over again. Okay, and so the infinite loop on self-referential lookups. Self-referential lookups. Patch again fought this vulnerability. Log4j 2.17.0 for Java 8 and up. So that is the current and the latest patch. Okay, how do you protect yourself from this vulnerability? Now, I said this has been in the wild for a while now. So I would expect that companies and also individuals should have patched their systems by now. So they've patched and updates. I said, what can you do? Upgrade to a newer version of Log4j. Upgrade to the latest version, and this is quite simple to do. Check your systems. Well, first of all, if you use Log4j, also make sure you have a WAF, web application firewall, and apply or set the firewall rules. Go to your logs and check for any activity, especially any scanning activity. Identify and the source of the activities. Update. So you should install all updates and security patches by your vendors and your manufacturers as soon as they become available. This should be kind of automatic. So don't leave anything to chance. Now, once you've done this, then you need to validate the security controls that you have implemented are working. One way to validate these controls is by simulating an attack. Because if you simulate an attack and your controls can mitigate, first of all identify and then mitigate, which would then prevent this attack, then you know that you're okay. So it's not just a patch. Your patch is good, but make sure the patch it is actually working. You've updated your systems, you've tested it, and again, you can't just go home. It's ongoing monitoring, of course, after that. Now, I mentioned previously that you should have a WAF, of course, and create rules. And then what you could do is, again, still examine the threat of remote code execution, RCE. And we want to make sure that that type of remote code execution can be blocked by your web application firewall, or any sort of intrusion prevention systems that you have. So how do you do this? By inspecting any ingress traffic. So that's any traffic that's coming to your network, and also any egress as well. So make sure that your firewall rules are set in a stringent manner to block these forms of attacks. So identify and block and document. If you your organization have already been compromised, then a forensic investigation and remediation should be conducted as soon as possible. One of the things that an investigator will look out for are for any malicious artifacts, any open doors or back doors as well. Once they've been identified, then remediate it as soon as possible. And if in doubt, speak to your vendor. There are also numerous vulnerability testing or web-based tools that can also help to identify any server applications as well. So speak to your vendor, look for these tools to identify this vulnerability and remediate as soon as possible. Immediately, I would say. Thank you once again for listening, and until next time, have a great week.